The whispers started the moment Zek'thar entered the throne room. Queen Victoria sat motionless on her seat, watching the alien ambassador approach through a gauntlet of sneering nobles. He stood barely 4 feet tall, his gray skin marked with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed nervously. His 3-fingered hands clutched a data tablet against his chest like a shield. "Your Majesty," Zek'thar's translator rendered his voice thin and reedy, "I come on behalf of the Confederation of Qual to propose a military alliance." Lord Pemberton didn't even try to hide his laughter. "Military? From the cow?" His voice boomed across the marble hall. "Everyone knows your kind runs at the first sign of trouble." Others joined in. Victoria felt her jaw tighten but said nothing. The political reality was simple. Earth needed traditional allies more than it needed the friendship of a species whose military reputation was non-existent. The Call were known throughout the galaxy as merchants and scholars, not warriors. Zek'thar's bioluminescent marks flickered dimmer. "The Krell are coming. They will not stop with the outer colonies. They will come here." "We'll handle our own defense," Admiral Hayes interjected, his tone dripping with condescension. "Perhaps you should focus on what your people do best, running and hiding." The throne room erupted in cruel laughter. Victoria watched Zek'thar's shoulders slump slightly, those strange marks on his skin pulsing in what she somehow knew was pain. For a moment their eyes met. In his gaze she saw something that made her chest tighten with shame. Dignity, determination, and a deep, quiet sadness. Before she could speak, the palace defense system screamed to life. Red emergency lights flooded the throne room. An officer burst through the doors, his face ashen. "Your Majesty, Krell warships just dropped out of hyperspace. Dozens of them. They're already through the outer defense perimeter." Chaos erupted instantly. Nobles scrambled for the exits, their earlier bravado evaporating like morning frost. Victoria stood, her heart hammering, watching her court dissolve into a panicked mob. The building shuddered as something massive struck the planetary shield far above. "Evacuate the Queen!" Hayes shouted, already moving toward her. "No." Victoria's voice cut through the noise. "I'm staying. Get me to the command center." "Your Majesty, protocol requires. Protocol can burn." She descended the steps, her guards forming around her. "I will not abandon my people." She nearly collided with Zek'thar. While everyone else fled toward the evacuation shuttles, he stood perfectly still in the center of the emptying throne room, his tablet now displaying tactical readouts. "You should go," Victoria said, surprised to find genuine concern in her voice. "Your ship was destroyed 3 minutes ago." Zek'thar's marks pulsed steady now, brighter than before. "The Krell hit the diplomatic landing pad first. I have nowhere to go." Another explosion rocked the palace. Dust rained from the ornate ceiling. "Then, come with me." Victoria extended her hand without thinking. "If you're going to die on my planet, you might as well make yourself useful." Something that might have been a smile crossed Zek'thar's alien features. "I was hoping you would say that." The command center beneath the palace was bedlam. Holographic displays showed the nightmare unfolding in orbit. 30 Krell warships, each the size of a city block, were systematically dismantling Earth's defensive fleet. The humans were outgunned and outmaneuvered at every turn. "They're using the Korvax formation," Zek'thar said quietly, studying the displays. Everyone turned to stare at him. "See how their heavy cruisers form the outer shell while their carriers stay protected in the center? It's a Krell standard assault pattern. I've seen it before." "You fought the Krell?" Hayes asked. Skepticism still thick in his voice despite the circumstances. "I've fought them for 7 years. Zek'thar moved to the tactical display, his small fingers dancing across the controls with practiced ease. "They destroyed my homeworld, killed 3 billion Qual in a single day. I'm what's left of our defense force." The room fell silent except for the constant stream of damage reports coming through the comms. Victoria studied the alien with new eyes. The slumped shoulders she'd seen in the throne room were gone. He stood straight now, his bioluminescent marks pulsing in complex patterns as he analyzed the battle. "Your fleet is attacking all wrong," Zek'thar continued. "The Krell formation looks defensive, but it's designed to funnel you into kill zones. See here and here?" He highlighted sections of the display. "Those gaps aren't weaknesses, they're traps. Then what do you suggest? Victoria asked. Zek'thar's marks pulsed faster. Something they won't expect. The Krell are efficient but predictable. They follow doctrine religiously. If we break the pattern, we can create confusion. For the next 20 minutes, Zek'thar outlined a strategy that was equal parts brilliant and insane. Instead of engaging the Krell fleet directly, he proposed using Earth's satellites as improvised kinetic weapons, launching them in calculated patterns to disrupt the enemy formation. It would leave Earth vulnerable to surveillance and communication blackouts, but they were already losing. Hayes looked at Victoria. Your Majesty, do it! Victoria's voice was steel. Implement his plan immediately. The strategy worked better than anyone dared hope. The Krell formation fractured as satellites slammed into their cruisers at relativistic speeds. Human fighters exploited the chaos, targeting the now exposed carrier ships. For the first time since the battle began, the tide seemed to shift. Then the planetary shield failed. The command center lurched as explosions walked across the palace grounds above them. Red warning lights painted everyone's faces in shades of blood. Krell ground forces are landing, an officer reported, her voice shaking. 40 drop ships. They're heading straight for the capital. Victoria felt ice settle into her stomach. The Krell didn't take prisoners. They didn't negotiate. They consumed worlds and moved on. They're after you, Zek'thar said, quietly. The Krell always target leadership first. If they kill you, human resistance will fracture. Then we hold this position. Victoria pulled up a schematic of the palace defenses. We have military units stationed throughout the city. You can delay them. Zek'thar's marks had gone nearly white. Maybe an hour, maybe 2. But they'll breach these walls, and when they do, everyone here dies. You have a better idea? Yes. Zek'thar pulled up a different display, showing the Krell command ship in high orbit. I go there. Their tactical coordination comes from that vessel. If I can sabotage their command systems, their ground forces will lose cohesion. Your people will have a chance. Hayes laughed bitterly. You? Alone? Get onto a Krell command ship and somehow sabotage it? That's suicide. Yes, Zek'thar agreed simply. It is. Victoria stared at him. Why would you do this? We mocked you, humiliated you. Why die for us? Zekthar's marks dimmed to a soft blue. Because 3 billion of my people already died while I ran. Because I know what the Krell do to worlds they conquer. Because maybe, if I do this, my death will actually matter. He pulled a small device from his robes. This is a Qual stealth generator, our one military innovation. It doesn't last long, but it will get me aboard their ship. Once I'm inside, I know their systems. I studied them for years. I know their weaknesses. It's still suicide, Victoria said softly. Then I'll die doing what those fools in your throne room claimed my people couldn't do. I'll die fighting. The building shook again. Closer this time. They were running out of time. Victoria made a decision that would haunt and define the rest of her life. Do it. But you're not going alone. 20 minutes later, Victoria stood on the palace roof watching Zek'thar prepare the small escape pod they'd retrofitted with Qual stealth technology. Below, she could hear weapons fire as human forces engaged the advancing Krell ground troops. Your Majesty, please reconsider. Hayes stood beside her, his earlier contempt replaced with genuine fear for her safety. If you lead a ground assault while Zek'thar infiltrates their ship, you'll be exposed. Vulnerable. Good. Victoria checked her sidearm, a habit from her military days before ascending to the throne. Let them see their queen fights beside them. Let them see I don't hide while others bleed. Zek'thar approached, his small form nearly swallowed by the improvised EVA suit they'd constructed. The stealth field will last approximately 40 minutes. After that, I'll be visible to their sensors. Make those 40 minutes count. Victoria surprised herself by kneeling to his eye level. Come back alive and I swear to you, the mockery ends. The alliance you came seeking, you'll have it. Zekthar's marks pulsed in what she'd learned was the Qual equivalent of a sad smile. If I come back, I'll hold you to that promise. The escape pod launched silently, its trajectory calculated to appear as debris from the orbital battle. Victoria watched it disappear into the smoke-filled sky, then turned to face her assembled guard. Today, we show the Krill what it means to attack Earth. Today, we show them that humanity doesn't surrender. She drew her sidearm. And today, we show them that their greatest mistake was underestimating the small and the mocked. The soldiers roared. Victoria led them down into hell. The streets of New London had become a war zone. Krell soldiers, 8 feet tall and armored in black combat shells, advanced through the rubble with mechanical precision. Victoria fought beside her troops, her training from years ago coming back like muscle memory. She took cover behind a destroyed vehicle, firing controlled bursts at the advancing enemy. A Krell warrior exploded through a storefront to her left. Victoria spun, putting 3 rounds center mass. The creature barely slowed. She rolled behind a concrete barrier as return fire tore chunks from the street where she'd been standing. "Flank left!" she shouted, coordinating her forces even as bullets screamed past her head. "Force them into the intersection!" Concentrate fire. The tactic worked. Human soldiers poured fire into the intersection, cutting down Krell warriors who'd been drawn into the kill zone. But for every enemy that fell, 2 more seemed to take its place. Victoria's communicator crackled. "Your Majesty, enemy reinforcements approaching from the east. We can't hold this position much longer." She looked at her tactical display. 37 minutes since Zek'thar launched. Not enough time. They needed to buy him more. "Fall back to the palace grounds," she ordered. "Establish defensive positions at the inner wall. Make them fight for every inch." As her forces retreated in organized chaos, Victoria allowed herself one thought for the small alien somewhere above, alone in the darkness of space, attempting the impossible. Zek'thar's stealth field flickered as he drifted toward the Krill command ship. The massive vessel loomed before him like a sleeping predator, its hull scarred from countless battles. He'd studied Krell ship designs for years, memorized their layouts, learned their security protocols, knowledge purchased with the blood of his world. The pod attached to a maintenance airlock with a barely audible click. Zek'thar's hands moved quickly, slicing through the security systems with tools he'd carried since the fall of Khal. The airlock cycled. He was inside. The corridor beyond was dimly lit and empty. Krell command ships ran on skeleton crews during active operations. Most personnel deployed to manage the assault below. Zek'thar moved like a ghost through passages he'd only seen in intelligence reports. Every turn burned into his memory. His stealth field had 16 minutes remaining. He reached the engineering deck without incident. The massive power core thrummed before him, a sphere of contained fusion energy that powered the ship's weapons and shields. Zek'thar pulled explosive charges from his pack, shaped charges designed by Qual military engineers, who were now all dead. A Krell soldier rounded the corner. For a heartbeat, they stared at each other. Then the alien roared and raised its weapon. Zek'thar dove, his small size saving him as plasma fire scorched the air where he'd been. He came up firing a stolen Krell pistol, the weapon almost comically large in his 3-fingered grip. The shot took the Krell in the throat. It gurgled and collapsed. Alarms screamed life. His stealth field sputtered and died. Zek'thar cursed in his native tongue and worked faster, attaching charges to critical power relays. He had minutes, maybe seconds before more soldiers arrived. The charges armed with soft beeps. Zek'thar input the detonation sequence, setting a 15-minute timer. Then he ran. Krell soldiers poured into the corridor from both directions. Zek'thar took a service shaft, crawling through tight spaces where the larger aliens couldn't follow. He could hear them tearing through walls, determined to reach him. He had to get to the communications array. The charges would cripple the ship, but he needed to do more. He needed to give Victoria and her people every advantage. The communications room was guarded by 3 Krell officers. Zek'thar didn't hesitate. He tossed his last grenade through the doorway and followed the blast inside, firing as he moved. 2 Krill fell. The third caught him across the chest with an armored fist. Zek'thar flew backward, pain exploding through his small body. Ribs cracked. His vision swam. The Krell officer advanced, raising a blade designed to decapitate. Zek'thar shot it through the eye, gasping, bleeding. He dragged himself to the communications console. His fingers danced across alien controls, uploading a virus he'd spent 7 years developing. A virus designed specifically to corrupt Krell tactical networks. The upload finished. Zek'thar allowed himself a moment to collapse against the console, each breath agony. Through the view screen, he could see Earth below, beautiful and burning. "I'm sorry I couldn't save my world," he whispered in qual, his marks pulsing faint orange. "But maybe I can save yours." The timer on his charges reached 0. Victoria felt the shockwave even from the ground. She looked up to see the Krell command ship break apart in orbit, secondary explosions rippling through its hull. Around her, the advancing Krell ground forces suddenly faltered, their coordinated assault dissolving into confusion. "What happened?" Hayes demanded over the comm. "He did it," Victoria breathed. "Zek'thar actually did it." The Krell soldiers, cut off from tactical command and watching their flagship die, began to retreat. Human forces pressed the advantage, driving the invaders back toward their landing zones. But Victoria wasn't celebrating. She was looking at the debris field spreading from the destroyed command ship, wondering if a small alien body was somewhere among the wreckage. "Get me a shuttle," she ordered. "Now. Your Majesty, the battle isn't over. It's not safe to... I said now!" Victoria's voice carried the full weight of royal authority. "That alien saved our world. I will not leave him to die in the void." The shuttle launched into a debris field that looked like a graveyard of stars. Victoria stood in the cockpit, her eyes scanning the destruction for any sign of an escape pod or survival beacon. "There," the pilot pointed. "Faint emergency signal. 300 meters to port." Victoria's heart hammered as they approached the signal's source. A small Qual escape pod, heavily damaged, tumbling slowly through space. The shuttle's manipulator arms caught it gently, drawing it into the cargo bay. Victoria was already moving, unsealing the pod with shaking hands. The hatch popped open, releasing a puff of contaminated atmosphere. Inside, Zek'thar lay crumpled and bleeding, his EVA suit torn, his bioluminescent marks barely glowing, but he was breathing. "Get medical teams ready." Victoria lifted the small alien carefully, cradling him like something infinitely precious. "You magnificent, insane fool. You actually made it." Zekthar's eyes flickered open. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper, his translator glitching. Did it work? It worked!" Tears Victoria didn't know she was crying ran down her face. "You saved us!" "You saved everyone." His marks pulsed once, bright blue, before dimming again. "Good. That's good." 3 days later, Zek'thar stood in the same throne room where he'd been mocked. His chest was wrapped in medical bandages designed for human anatomy but adapted for Qual physiology. His marks pulsed steady and strong. The room was packed. Every noble who'd fled during the attack stood in attendance, their faces carefully neutral. Human military officers filled the remaining space, many bearing fresh wounds from the battle. News cameras from across Earth and a dozen allied worlds broadcast the ceremony live. Queen Victoria descended from her throne carrying something wrapped in blue silk. She stopped before Zek'thar and knelt, bringing herself to his eye level. "Ambassador Zek'thar of Qual," her voice rang clear and strong. 3 days ago you came to this court seeking alliance. You were met with mockery and scorn." She looked directly at Lord Pemberton and others who'd laughed. Several had the grace to look ashamed. "We judged you by your size and your species' reputation. We were fools." She unwrapped the silk, revealing a medal, Earth's highest military honor. "When our world faced destruction, you didn't flee. You didn't hesitate. You risked everything, sacrificed everything to save a people who had shown you nothing but contempt." She pinned the medal to his chest. "You are hereby declared a hero of Earth, with all rights and honors that title carries." The throne room erupted in applause, but Victoria wasn't finished. "More than that, I formally accept your proposal of alliance between Earth and the Call Confederation. Furthermore, I propose we establish a joint military command, with you, Ambassador Zek'thar, as its first supreme commander." The room went silent. Hayes stepped forward. "Your Majesty, that's overdue." Victoria cut him off. She stood, still holding Zekthar's small hand. "We've learned that courage isn't measured in size, That wisdom comes from unexpected sources, and that the greatest heroes are often those we're too blind to recognize. She turned to address the assembled crowd. 3 billion Qual died fighting the Krell. For 7 years, this male carried that burden alone, hunting the enemy that destroyed his world. When he came to warn us, we laughed. When he offered to help us, we mocked him. When he saved us, he expected nothing in return. Victoria's voice hardened. Those days are done. From this moment forward, let it be known across all of human space. The Qual are our brothers and sisters in arms. Their enemies are our enemies. Their victories are our victories. And anyone who shows them disrespect will answer to me personally. Zek'thar's marks blazed brilliant gold. When he spoke, his voice carried clearly through the sudden silence. Your Majesty, you honor me and my people beyond measure. I came here expecting rejection. I found instead something I thought I'd lost with my homeworld. He paused, his marks pulsing in complex patterns of emotion. I found hope, and I found that heroism is not the absence of fear, but the choice to stand and fight despite it. Humans taught me that. You taught me that. He turned to face the assembled nobles and officers. I accept your alliance. Together, we will ensure the Krell never destroy another world. Together, we will build something worthy of the billions who died to bring us to this moment. The applause that followed shook the palace walls. Victoria watched nobles who'd fled in terror, now cheering for the small alien they'd dismissed. She watched Admiral Hayes salute Zek'thar with genuine respect. She watched history being made in real time. Later, after the ceremonies concluded and the crowds dispersed, Victoria found Zek'thar standing alone on a palace balcony, looking up at the stars. The orbital debris field was still visible, a reminder of how close they'd come to annihilation. Do you ever regret it? She asked quietly. Coming here, risking everything for strangers who treated you so poorly? Zek'thar's marks pulsed soft blue. Every hero's journey begins with mockery, Your Majesty. It's what we do despite the mockery that defines us. He turned to face her. Besides, you weren't all cruel. You gave me a chance when it mattered. You trusted me when trust was all we had left. You earned that trust with blood and fire. Perhaps. Zek'thar looked back at the stars. Or perhaps some part of you always knew that strength comes in many forms, that sometimes the smallest voice carries the most important message. Victoria stood beside him, 2 leaders of 2 worlds, united by fire and forged in battle. Above them, human and Qual ships flew side by side, beginning joint patrols. A new era had begun, born from the ashes of mockery, and validated by the courage of one small alien who refused to run. Your people call this HFY, Zek'thar said suddenly. Humanity? Fuck yeah. A celebration of human exceptionalism. Victoria smiled. We might need a new acronym. Something that includes the cow. Zek'thar's marks pulls, and what she'd learned was laughter. How about simply heroes? That covers everyone willing to stand when others run. Everyone willing to fight when surrender seems easier. Doesn't matter what species you are, only what you choose to do when darkness falls. Heroes, Victoria repeated, tasting the word. I like that. They stood together as twin suns set over New London, casting long shadows across a city rebuilding from war. Somewhere in the palace below, diplomats were drafting treaties. Engineers were sharing technology. Soldiers were training together, learning each other's tactics. But here, on this balcony, 2 people who'd been strangers mere days ago simply existed in comfortable silence. A queen who'd learned that true leadership meant standing with those who fight. An ambassador who'd learned that redemption could be found in the most unexpected places. The galaxy was vast and dark and full of threats. But tonight, on this wounded world, hope burned brighter than any star. Because they'd learned the most important lesson of all, that heroes come in all sizes, from all worlds, and that the greatest victory is seeing past our prejudices to embrace the courage that exists in every beating heart, no matter how different from our own.